everybody, welcome back to Real Anime Training. I am your Real Anime Sensei, and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite series, and it is History's Strongest Disciple, Shijo Saikyu no Deshi Kenichi, or as it is known here in the States by its less fun name, Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple. I don't like that name so much. I like to call it History's Strongest Disciple Kenichi, but that's just me. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do the very beginning of Kenichi's training, the fundamental Ryozanpaku workout. And what that is it's a lot of leg training, because as Ma Kensei says, leg training is the foundation of martial arts training. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a grand journey into the beginning of Ryozanpaku's training. Like I said, this series is one of my favorite series. It is fantastic martial arts fan service with all kinds of stuff from lots of different styles. And the main character, Shirahama Kenichi, or Kenichi Shirahama, is a absolute nobody. He was made fun of and bullied, and I can really relate to that myself, as I was made fun of and bullied for the majority of my school years. So anyway, he uses martial arts to gain a lot of confidence, and he ends up fighting off his bullies, and it's fantastic. If you haven't watched it, go watch it right now. But first, let's have you watch this video, and then you'll probably want to go watch the series anyway. Wait, before you go anywhere, I got one last thing to say. Do not ever, 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 ever watch the dub. It is absolutely terrible. Please just watch it in the subtitle. And I know there's a lot of you that are crazy about like watching it in English because that's your native language. Don't do this to yourself on this one, guys. Watch the original language. All right, that's it.
Seriously, I didn't listen tonight. I'm still feeling sick from it.
Kenichi spends a lot of time training his legs, and one of his primary methods of training his legs is actually running while pulling a tire. And it's not just any tire, it's a tire with a rather large jiu-jitsu practitioner sitting on top of it. However, we're not going to start with pulling a tire. We're going to start with running just by itself. So we're going to do 2.5 miles, and that 2.5 miles needs to be completed in 17.5 minutes to progress. So at the very beginning, you're not going to possibly be able to run that quickly, and that's fine. But once you do get to 17.5 minutes for 2.5 miles, at that point, we will begin to progress by pulling a tire. When you start pulling that tire, it's going to feel a little bit more difficult, and that's all right. But we've still got the 17.5 minute time marker for that 2.5 miles. So ideally, when pulling the tire, you'd want to have some sort of harness or like a belt with like an attachment so it's not digging too hard into your hip. But at the very beginning, when you're using just a tire or a tire with a few pounds in it, that's not too bad. It's not going to hurt you to have a rope, especially if it's got two layers like that, not just one. It's not going to dig into you too bad. So make sure that you are wearing a shirt and pants just to make sure that it's not rubbing up against your bare skin, and that'll definitely help with any kind of chafing or anything like that. It is not too terribly difficult to run while pulling a tire for short distances. It's really going to start getting into it, half mile, 3/4 of a mile into the run. You're going to really start feeling the fact that you're pulling that additional weight. And since it's not just weight that's bounding down on you, but you're having to push against it because it's pulling behind you, you're really going to feel it in your glutes. It's going to be a whole lot of butt. So when you're adding weight to the tire, there's a lot of different things you can do. You can put sandbags in the tire. They should stay in pretty well even though you're running. You can put a plank of wood in there, put some weight on top of it. You want to advance slowly. So the idea is that once you hit the time marker, which I'll have on the screen, you go up in weight. So you run without the tire, you hit the time marker, you start running with the tire. Then every time you hit that time goal, you add a little bit of weight to the tire, like 5 pounds. And then you continue on until you get up to the point where you've got your own Duffy. Your goal while pulling the tire is once again 17.5 minutes. The next exercise that Akisame has Kenichi do is a horse stance while holding gripping jars. We're going to do two different kinds of horse stances, a 5-step horse stance and a 3-step horse stance. Both are acceptable. The 5-step horse stance allows you to be able to work the muscles a little bit differently. I would probably recommend trying to do both of them if you can. You know, not necessarily in the same workout, but if you're doing the workout multiple times, one stance one time and the other stance the other. It goes 45 degrees out, and then you take it 90 from there, 90 from there, 90 from there until you've done all the steps, and then you bring your feet directly, the outside of your feet to where they are parallel to one another, and then you sink low. You want to keep your knees out the whole time. You want to be able to hold this horse stance for 5 minutes straight before you even do the gripping jars at all. Once you can hold the horse stance for 5 minutes straight, then you can hold the empty protein containers as the gripping jars. When holding the gripping jars, you want to make sure that you have your arm pulled all the way back. Your arm is straight, and you want to make sure that you pull your shoulder blade back. Really retract that scapula. It's all about posture here. You do not want to have your shoulders pulling you forward. You want to make sure that they are fully back with the back fully extended, but not shrugging. When you are progressing in your training, once you move past just the empty protein container, these things come with scoops, believe it or not, you know, to scoop the protein. But we're going to use it for a different purpose. We're going to take this scoop, scoop some sand, and we're going to take that scoop and put it in the protein container. And that's your progression right there. Hello, Lily. You're going to put that sand in the protein container, and it's just a little bit heavier. And so the next time that you do your horse stance or your steps, you will do so with 1 scoop of sand in the container. As you progress, being able to do all of the reps with, you know, doing 5 minutes with the jars out to the side with 1 scoop in without you know, dropping them, then you'll take another one, put it in there, and you got 2 scoops. And then when you can do that for 5 minutes without dropping it, 3 scoops. Once this is completely full of sand, you'll take this same scoop, fill it with water, put the water in there. So you'll do 1 scoop of water, and then you'll continue to progress in that way. It will take a long time, but eventually you will end up with this full of wet sand, and that will be very, very heavy. The next exercise Kenichi is doing is lunge steps by Ma Kensei. But the problem here with these lunge steps is that they're a little hard on the knees, so we're going to do a different variation of lunge steps in the form of a walking lunge. We're going to do a variation of the walking lunge called a prisoner lunge. For a prisoner lunge, you want your hands to be behind your head, your elbows and shoulder blades pulled back. You're going to step so that your knee does not go over your toes, but is more centered over your ankle. And you're going to drive through the heel, squeezing the glute and stepping through, making sure that the knee is not collapsing in. For the walking lunges, you will do 100 total steps, so that's 50 on each side. When you are able to complete 50 on each side, that's 100 steps total without stopping. You will move it up to 150 steps total without stopping, and then 200 steps without stopping, and you'll continue to increase it pretty much forever until you're unable to go any higher. But do not move up to the next section until you're able to complete the listed number of reps without stopping. The final exercise is moving with the gripping jars. Kenichi is being told to do what's called a suriashi, which is a sliding step. However, I'm not going to have you guys do that. What I'm going to have you do is try to move in ways that are applicable for your life, whether or not that is walking in a lowered stance or walking in a way that is similar to a martial art that you practice. And you want to try to stay low and make sure that you are not bouncing up and down in the process of moving. And you're going to have your arms out with the gripping jars just like you were in the horse stance with the exact same weight that you used for the horse stance. You have many different options for being able to move. You can walk normally. You can do a sliding step. You can do a C-step. You can do a lunge step from like karate or something like that. There's lots of different options. You want to make sure that whichever one you pick, that you're trying to keep your head as level as possible and that you are in a lowered stance. All right, guys, just to recap, what we want to do here is we want to have a 2.5 mile run at 17.5 minutes as your goal. When you reach 17.5 minutes, you will begin pulling a tire, and every time you reach 17.5 minutes, you will add 5 to 10 pounds to the tire. The second exercise is horse stance with the gripping jars. You can do a 3 or a 5-step horse stance. You're going to hold that position for 5 minutes straight. If you cannot hold it for 5 minutes straight, hold it for 5 minutes total. And when you can hold it for 5 minutes straight, begin to use the gripping jars and add sand every time you reach 5 minutes. The third exercise is the lunge steps. That's 100 steps total, 100 plus steps. So that means that every time you get to the listed rep count, you are going to add 50 total steps to your count, and that will continue as long as you continue to do the workout. So it's very possible that you could end up doing several hundred lunge steps later on. The final exercise is moving with the gripping jars. You have many different options for that, but we are going to do a total of 50 yards moving with the gripping jars. You don't want to try to do it quickly. You want to try to do it slowly and with good body control. This is going to take you a long time to get to the point where you are able to get to the higher levels of this workout, so don't get discouraged. Starting with once a week, then moving to twice a week, then 3 times a week, you can very quickly progress in this workout if you just stick to it. Alright guys, that's it for this week on Real Anime Training. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please go ahead and click that subscribe button, click the thumbs up for us, and share it with all your friends. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, good luck and train hard.
Tire weapon!
Tire weapon. I love how you yelled it like an anime attack.
Tire weapon roar! Yeah!